Background the Danger is a 1943 World War II espionage movie with an outstanding cast, with a twist of a storyline that we don't see often. And there are several train scenes. Let's decode this classic right now. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
Of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Let's go decode the background of Background to Danger. All right, it's based on a novel, Uncommon Danger, written by British thriller writer Eric Ambler, and it was published in 1937. It was published in the United States, however, as Background to Danger. So the screenplay credit goes to W.R. Burnett, with uncredited assistance from Dan Fuchs and a guy we've heard of, William Faulkner. Wow.
Well, who's that?
Yeah. All right. But Burnett, he's an accomplished author himself. He wrote the novel Little Caesar in 1929, which was an instant hit, and was made into a movie in 1931 starring Edward G. Robinson. He also wrote Scarface, The Asphalt Jungle, High Sierra, and other novels, making him really one of the most influential writers in screen history. So this should be a good one here, right?
Yeah, but Dan, as I ask you for every movie we decode, is this a spy movie? I mean, I know you said there were train scenes, so that bodes well. There's always a train scene in a spy movie, or a good one. But is this a spy movie?
Yeah. All right. Let's see. There's lots of spies in this one, so I think you'll be pretty happy. All right. The basic outline of this World War II spy movie is a sophisticated German spy ring plans to publish false rumors that Russia, who of course is fighting against Germany, plans to invade neutral Turkey in order to ally Turkey with the Nazis.
You mean you mean fake news? Fake news?
One of the first instances of fake news. All right. We can easily imagine that these kinds of things went on during the war. In fact, yeah, Germany did indeed actively try to convince Turkey to become a German ally during World War II, but primarily by using diplomatic pressure and offering a non-aggression pact that might seem appealing to Turkey. So things like this happened. And this background of the situation is full of potential danger, which permeates all of the storyline. So the story takes a little different twist, but there is some reality to it. Of course, Russia wants Turkey to remain neutral and not side with the Germans.
Well, and Turkey, right? We've seen Turkey used for espionage in many spy movies. You know, two just off the top of my head. Well, we got Five Fingers, the one from was it 1952 with James Mason?
Yeah.
From Russia with Love, Skyfall.
Yeah.
All had stuff in Turkey. A lot of the war type movies, when they talked about espionage, were either talking Malta or Turkey. So
yeah,
it's good to see that.
Yeah, and you're printing fake news. Come on, tomorrow never dies. All right, as we said, there are train scenes. So you got to love a spy movie with train scenes. So yeah, Tom, this is a spy movie, no doubt.
All right, and I agree with you. And you've got to love a train scene in a spy movie.
Yeah.
The train scenes here kind of have an Agatha Christie feel to them because everyone's contained inside the train. They can't leave unless they jump or climb out on the outside of it. And I think there is no doubt that this is a spy movie. So this thing opens with a scene in Ankara, Turkey, and there's a bombing attempt on a man's life. The German ambassador, von Papen. Now, the attempt wasn't successful, and von Papen survived. Now, in real life, there was an assassination attempt on Franz von Papen, who was a German diplomat and a statesman. He narrowly escaped a bomb that could have killed him and his wife because apparently the bomb went off prematurely and killed the bomber.
Yeah, see, we got more reality here in this movie. This is good.
Yeah, now when I read that about the fact that the bomb went off prematurely, and then I watched what they show us in this movie, I kept thinking about the conversation we had with Tom Whiteman about the OSS weapons. I mean, remember the Beano hand grenade? Right, a normal hand grenade, you pull the pin, it explodes 6 seconds later or something like that. With the Beano, it hit and exploded on impact.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't put the Beano into production, right? They tested it out and everything, but people were hurting themselves with it. You wonder if this was some German prototype or something similar. I'm not sure, but there definitely was a flaw in the way these assassination attempts happened in both the movie and in real life.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now,
And I'm thinking it's the Beano.
I mean, it could be. We're not sure. Now, in the movie and in real life, the Germans wanted it to look like the Russians, actually in real life, the British/Russians, were behind this attempt so that Turkey would align with Germany and become an ally. So they're trying.
Yeah, they are. And you've got to always keep them guessing. Plus, there were some other real world things that were referenced, which added to the real feeling of the movie. And I liked the way they did that. They threw some stuff in here that was real. So when you're hearing it, it's like, oh, they're talking about that. Right. So, for instance, when describing a cigarette, the tobacco blend is called out. And the character Joe Barton, who we'll talk about in a minute, he mentions Bafra, Latakia, and Mahala. And those first two names are geographical, with Bafra being a city in Turkey and Latakia is the main port city in Syria. And I apologize if I'm saying those names wrong. But commonly, a tobacco is identified by where it's from. And so that was kind of nice. Plus, those cigarettes, they were going to put his initials on it. Kind of like the three bands that Ian Fleming liked.
Yeah. And there was also mention of Quisling, which is a name given to someone who collaborates with an enemy occupying force. You might call a Quisling a traitor, maybe. This name comes from Vidkun Quisling, who led a Nazi collaborationist regime. And finally, there was mention of the Reichstag fire, which actually occurred in 1933, a month after Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. So,
yeah, and for me, I love it when they do this, right? They're bringing real things into this period movie.
Yeah.
It's not a realism movie, but they're bringing stuff in to make you feel like you're really there. And I think
it's cool. And it's well written and well used in the movie. Now, the cast of characters is interesting. Quite frankly, Peter Lorre and Sydney Greenstreet in another movie together is okay by me. They've already been together in The Maltese Falcon, 1941, and the tremendously successful Casablanca, 1942.
Yep.
So that was good. Now, here, it becomes clear early that Colonel Robinson, Sydney Greenstreet, is aligned with the German Nazi Party and is orchestrating this attempt to get Turkey to align with Germany. After the failed bombing attempt, Colonel Robinson is talking to the guy who was responsible for the failure in his office in Berlin. When we get to Colonel Robinson's office, he's got an impressive desk. It's almost like a half circle, ornate, wood carved, gorgeous.
It obviously, really was.
Yeah, obviously, it's indicating this guy's powerful. But while walking to his desk, there's a stained glass window with words on it. This is literally a walk-by item. So could have easily been left out of this movie. But it's so impressive that it's included in the shot. And in the stained glass window are the words Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, a German phrase which translates to one people, one realm, nation, or empire, one leader. And it was the Nazi Party's motto and a key part of their propaganda, even to their own people, used in posters, speeches, and radio broadcasts, and here on the stained glass window. I mean, this would have been so easy and cheaper to leave out, but it's in the movie, and it's impressive that it is in the movie. This little detail, I just love to see this kind of stuff.
You know, what's really funny to me is you just said all that. I wrote down the exact same thing, right? I saw that in the window. I looked up what it meant and everything. So obviously it was important, and we both grabbed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nikolai Zalesov, Peter Lorre, and his sister Tamara Zalesov, played by Brenda Marshall, they claim to be Russian agents in this storyline. And our leading man, Joe Barton, played by George Raft, is an American who's supposedly a salesman of heavy machinery or something. He turns out to be more than that, of course. All right, we see a similar thing here unfolding, at least we think so, that this American salesman is getting caught up in espionage, much like The Man Who Knew Too Much, North by Northwest, and a whole bunch of other Hitchcock spy movies. So we have episodes out on the two we just mentioned, and probably, 6 or 7 episodes out on Hitchcock spy movies, so take a listen to those. Anyway.
Now, I thought the first little bit of this movie really felt like the 39 Steps. And in fact, a few points during this movie, it really felt like the Hitchcock's 39 Steps. Yeah. I mean, we've got Barton. Barton appears to be a reluctant spy. Like when you first see him, like this guy's not a spy. He's just a guy who fell into a weird situation. Very much like Hanny in the 39 Steps.
Yeah.
There's a woman who dies pretty much falling into his arms with a wound to her back, similar to the 39 Steps.
Yep.
And like the 39 Steps, we get a double pursuit. And of course, I love the way they shook things up, though, because I kept thinking back to the 39 Steps, but then they did something very different with that as they went along. So I liked it. I was like they were kind of giving a wink and a nod throughout the movie, but making it a different movie.
Yeah, right. I can see the 39 Steps connections for sure. Yeah. All right. A few shout outs to our listeners who just recently gave us feedback on our podcast episodes. So thanks to Bill Canis for his feedback on our Rachel Grant interview. Thoroughly enjoyable. Great job, boys, he said. All right. And on our 1960s James Bond posters decoding session that just came out with Graham Rye, we have Jim Phelps, who said something that's so nice, I have to give him a full quote here. He said, your interviews are a fantastic forum for information. They always sound so relaxed, like you're all sitting at a table in the backyard having iced tea and snacks, just chewing the fat. Oh, man. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate that. And Mark Geiger, who said, nice interview. And Baldwin Collins, who gives us feedback often. He said, great posters review with Graham Rye, the right person for the history of James Bond. Another good show by Tom and Dan. All right. Thanks, Baldwin. Thanks all. Thanks, everybody. Keep the feedback coming. We love it.
Thank you very much. We really do appreciate hearing from you guys.
All right. Back to background to danger. So we have an interesting setup in this story. Now we move to our first important train scene, Joe Barton on the train in Aleppo in a compartment with a woman who he starts chatting with. She's Anna Ramsey, played by Osa Masson. Now, there is some light amusement with the dialogue. It's kind of fun. I like some of the dialogue in this little scene. She's hungry, so she says,
you no doubt consider it strange I should bring along my own food on board the deluxe train.
No, not necessarily.
On trains these days, they feed soldiers first and civilians second. Oh, that is how it should be. So I generally bring my own food.
And it was a nice exchange. It reminds us that a war is going on, and we wonder who she is and what will happen. Why is he in the compartment with her? Why are they showing us this? So she's going to do something.
Yeah, I do like the fact, again, like them bringing the other realism stuff in. You know, that comment really brings it home. Hey, we're in the middle of a war here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there's another man on the train who appears suspicious to us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's following this woman. She kind of alludes that he is. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he's following Joe. I mean, at first, we're not sure. We find out later. But this actor can put on a wonderful, sinister face. I'll talk more about him a little bit later. But the way they shoot him and they light him and they put the music on him, it's kind of like pay attention to this dude.
Perfectly done.
All right.
Yeah.
So Anna, she's alone and she's worried because she claims she has all of what she owns in what she's calling securities with her in an envelope, which again, in wartime, it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to carry their valuables with them because they may never go back home.
Right. I knew people who escaped from Hungary and they took everything with them to get out. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, she's afraid that she's going to get searched in Ankara. And because Joe is an American, she doesn't think they're going to search him. So she asks him to carry this envelope for her and meet her at her hotel in Ankara to return it.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be worried about this guy. I don't really know him. I just met him in this train compartment. What if he disappears with whatever I have in the envelope? I mean, come on. It's a bit of a stretch here, but okay. We see why she did it later. We kind of understand it a little bit, but it's like, okay.
Hey, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah.
Right? This is wartime. And I guess we should probably remind people that at the airport, they tell you to not carry anything for a stranger.
Yeah. Come on, Joe.
Joe Barton would probably be wise to heed this advice.
Yeah. All right. So naturally, this does not all go as she planned.
You think?
Yeah. Joe does go to her room. There ensues some type of search, and people are showing up there as well as Joe, like Peter Lorre as Nikolai Zeltov. Hmm. Now, I have to say that so far, the set design and costuming are terrific. The train scenes were excellent, and her hotel is a rather dingy, grimy kind of place, and you can kind of almost feel the dirt and overwhelming depression of this place. So I thought that part was really good.
You know, I'm not as sold on the set design as you are on this movie, Dan. Now, part of it is actually almost solely because of the train scenes. Right?
Oh.
The rest of the movie I thought had great set design. What I didn't like about the train scenes was it was quite obvious when they were shooting a miniature. And there was also a train. Okay. There's also one scene where they're climbing on the outside of the train. Right? Yeah. Great to see that. All right. We love spy movies with trains. Very often they end up on the outside of the train. Right. We've seen it in Octopussy, Mission Impossible, and a ton more. Right.
Yeah. Good.
But they intermix clips of the train operating at high speed. So when they're outside of the train, they'll throw in these clips of this train going really, really fast. And then they show them on the outside of the train. Well, when they're showing the train going really, really fast, the train's wiggling. But when they're showing these actors on the side of the train, you can tell they're just on a wall. It's not moving at all. Right?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So to me, it's like the set design and the way they shot the train scenes, the outside of the train scenes, I didn't really like. I was fine with the inside of trains and pretty much the rest of the set design of the movie. But
okay.
The miniature stuff and then that outside of the train, which I love, was disappointing to me.
All right, I'll give you that. It's not perfect. And probably the 39 Steps train scenes were probably better done in 1935, really. But yes. I mean, the outside shots. Okay. Anyway, all right.
It was Hitchcock, Dan.
Yeah. Art direction was by Hugh Rediker, and set decorations by Casey Roberts. So kudos to both. I liked it so far. Rediker did art direction for Sergeant Murphy, 1938, Murder in the Big House, 1942, and Between Two Worlds, 1944. Casey Roberts with set decorations. Well, Casey did To Have or Have Not, 1944, probably his most famous one. I love that movie. Fantastic movie. That is one of my all-time favorites.
I don't even know that movie, Dan.
Oh, my God. The sets are outstanding. Humphrey Bogart. Oh, yeah. Oh,
that's God. Bogart and Bacall?
Lauren Bacall.
Yeah,
oh, my God. Yeah. Come on. And he did Christmas in Connecticut, too, in 1943. Another outstanding movie. So, Background to Danger is solid with all of this throughout the movie.
You know, I have to say, I was surprised with this movie. This was one of those movies I'd never heard of before. And when you suggested we do an episode on it, I was like, what is this thing? So I had to look it up and then found it. And I liked it a lot. And I was surprised I hadn't heard about it before.
All right.
Now, we have a few more twists along the way as the police show up to talk to Joe Barton to see if he knows anything and what took place at Anna Ramsey's hotel. And they take him away for questioning. This was one of those scenes that, to me, was right out of the 39 Steps. Yes, done differently, but it definitely had that feel.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Plus, there's a point where Nikolai and Tamara save the day for Barton.
Okay, so Dan, this is a spy movie.
Yeah.
That means there's got to be a MacGuffin.
Of course.
What is the MacGuffin in Background to Danger?
Yeah, they got to have one. The MacGuffin in this spy movie, of course, is the envelope that she gave Barton on the train. Everyone wants it. So we do have a double pursuit of sorts.
Wait, you mean it wasn't just securities?
Yeah, there's something else maybe in the envelope. Who knows? All right. All right. We also kind of have a double pursuit going on here, too. The Germans are after Barton. The police are after Barton. The Russians seem to be after Barton as well. So he has nowhere to turn except, I don't know, he's not sure quite yet of Nikolai and Tamara.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've seen the movie 3 times now. I'm still not sure who those people were.
I know. They did it well, right?
Yeah.
All right. We find out more about Joe Barton in about 40 minutes into the movie that sharp-eyed spy movie fans may have been suspicious about all along. Barton is an American agent.
Which is exactly where this thing takes off differently than the 39 Steps.
Yeah, because he really
Annie wasn't a real American agent. Or he was Canadian, but he wasn't an agent at all.
In the book, he's just a sales guy. But in actuality, George Raft He did not like the original script where he was just, in fact, an American man. He insisted that he be an agent. So they had to rewrite some stuff. And I think at points you could see that it might be a little force-fed, but they did rewrite some stuff because he wanted to be an agent.
Well, and I like I said, I think it actually was good because it did make a deviation from the 39 steps.
Yeah.
So you weren't watching the 39 steps all over again.
I liked it too. And really, his whole persona as an agent, you have to think, hey, this guy's pretty calm, even in the face of death. He was pretty calm. Kind of James Bondish in a sense, but not really. All right, still, we have lingering questions and doubts about Nikolai and Tamara. Who are they really? We don't really know. Are they Russians, as they say, Germans, or some other national affiliation?
I mean, it's like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Who are these guys?
Who are these guys? I like that. Yeah.
The ambiguity of their alliances makes the characters more powerful.
Yes.
And throughout almost all of the movie, we aren't sure.
Yeah.
And that helps keep us, the viewer, on our toes.
Yeah.
And it also keeps Joe Barton on his toes. But I think it's really for us to keep us wrapped in.
Yeah. And it works well. Colonel Robinson, played by Sydney Greenstreet, is involved in this plot the entire way. Now, Sydney Greenstreet in this movie, I mean, I just love his whole persona in any movie he's in. The way he shrugs his shoulders, the way he moves his body when he's talking, it's so natural. It's so believable. He is so good. Like when he was talking to the guy in his office in Berlin, the way he moves his arms when he's talking, it's just fantastic. All right. Despite the failed bomb attempt to kill the German ambassador in the beginning, Robinson continues to plot his plan to make Turkey side with the Germans. Now, we've ignored this so far, but here you have Germany, Colonel Robinson being one of the key figures in Germany, planning to assassinate a German ambassador. Wasn't he German?
Von Papen was, yeah.
So they're killing the wrong guy to do this.
Well, that was at the beginning of the movie. The rest of the movie is really all about the skews. But no, they were trying to kill the guy because
I know why they were trying to kill the guy, but trying to kill their own guy.
No, exactly. That's how you throw. That's how you throw the suspicion away from you
and say that. Mean.
Say, hey, this has happened, and these other guys are doing this bad stuff. It's not us. It's fake news, but you don't know it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I like the dialogue in general, and whenever Greenstreet or Peter Lorre speak in their characters, I just love it. When Barton is doubting Nikolai at one juncture, Lorre says to him, as only Peter Lorre could say,
"You certainly have a deplorable lack of faith in your fellow men, don't you, Mr. Barton?"
It's like, that was a great line. Great line. And we still don't believe him.
All right, Dan, I know you love looking at facial expressions.
Yeah.
The way Peter Lorre uses his eyes to express Nikolai's feelings, his frustrations.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely spectacular.
He's so good in every movie doing that kind of thing. He's just good. All right. There's a terrific scramble with all involved trying to stop the plot, trying to execute the plot, and many things that happen in between. To test Barton's loyalty to Robinson, because Robinson is impressed with Barton at one point, he has him kill Nikolai. I'm going to say kill in quotes. That's all I will say. But there's some great scenes there that are terrific.
Yeah, now I am going to say a little bit more here about the having him kill Nikolai.
Okay.
Because watching this scene, my head exploded.
Wow.
Only because of timing. Last week, you and I had talked about potentially doing an episode on the movie Sleeping Car to Trieste.
Yeah, I've seen that twice. Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost an identical scene in that movie to the one you're trying to mention without giving the details away.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And there's a key line in both movies during this scene that explain things, but they take opposite paths for the explanations. Either explanation could work, but it was interesting that the details of what happened are exactly the same. Why
vague,
they happened.
A little vague here, a little vague.
Yep. Now, if you have seen Sleeping Car to Trieste, which came out 5 years after Background to Danger, you'll recognize what we're talking about here. Again, we don't want to give it away, but I'd be shocked if Background to Danger didn't influence that scene in Sleeping Car to Trieste.
Yeah. It's a good movie, too. I liked it. All right. Along with the aforementioned train scenes, we have a car chase. Yeah.
Car chase in a spy movie.
All right. 1943. Come on. And this car chase actually reminded me of Jaws chasing Bond in The Spy Who Loved Me in Sardinia, Italy. I mean, it kind of had that feel to it, in a sense. Not that
I was thinking more of the Hearst chase in Dr. No.
Yeah, but he's hanging out the window shooting and stuff. It was like, okay, all right. So anyway, that's all good stuff. Let's talk about the actors, because this cast is loaded. I mean, the acting is fantastic here for the most part. Sydney Greenstreet commands the screen when he appears. His voice, his mannerisms, sheer presence, his hugeness make him a standout in this movie. He's not the affable character we saw in Casablanca, but he is excellent in this movie. Peter Lorre.
I'm getting the idea that you really like Sydney Greenstreet.
I do like Sydney Greenstreet. I love everything he does. Peter Lorre is great as well here too. I mean, he plays his roles well. And here, just as in Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon with Sydney Greenstreet, who's in both of those movies, he is so into his character that there's no need for a willing suspension of disbelief. He's just that good. He's good.
Okay, now you just talked about the hugeness of Sydney Greenstreet, the actor. Right? This movie made me realize how small Peter Lorre was. And the funny thing is, it wasn't when he was standing next to Sydney. There was a scene where he's like running all by himself. And I'm like, he's tiny. I mean, he was 5'3".
Oh,
and
that's pretty small. Yeah.
So, and I hadn't noticed it. I've watched many movies with Peter Lorre in it, but here they just kind of like grabbed me in this one. Yeah, and especially when you think about the fact that they're, the size difference between him and Greenstreet, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Actually, we mentioned they were in a couple of these movies together, Maltese Falcon and Casablanca. Actually, Peter Lorre and Sydney Greenstreet were in 9 Warner Brother movies together.
Wow.
I don't think this one's neither's best performance, I don't think, but they're still very, very, very good because they are all the time. Now, let's look at George Raft. He's playing a good guy here, so that's a little different for him. And he's the main lead of the movie. He's the main lead of the movie, but he's solid as well. He's believable as Joe Barton, and he delivers his lines with firmness and authority. And as we mentioned earlier, he insisted on being an agent in the movie. I liked him, and I thought he did a very good job, and I thought he was very calm and cool because he's an agent, and he was calm and cool in the face of death and in all these complex situations. So that part was really good. But to me, Greenstreet and Lorre are the absolute best in this movie. Sorry to say, but they're fantastic. All right.
I thought actually Brenda Marshall's first rate in this movie is.
Oh yeah, we got to mention her. She's fantastic.
But I didn't like what they did with her character at the very end of the movie. I thought it was really lame. I mean, it was like, how did we get here so fast? I don't know. I mean, the movie was only 80 minutes long. Yeah. Adding a minute or two to set that ending up with her a little bit better would have been a good idea for me.
Yeah, I see what you mean. But, again, we don't know everything that's going to be transpiring after they leave. And we'll talk about the ending in a second. But yeah, anyway,
I just a little setup for how her character ends up.
Yeah.
It seemed to come out of the blue to me.
Especially in light of things that happened just before. Yeah. Right.
So maybe it was just a bad edit. Maybe they decided to throw that in at the last minute for a way to wrap the movie. I don't know, but I just thought that was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, these actors, they're surrounded by a great cast of supporting actors as well. So really, really nice stuff.
Okay, now as for the direction, I think Raoul Walsh did a fine job here.
Yeah.
He's directed many movies, including Battle Cry in 1955, Helen of Troy in 1956, The Naked and the Dead 1958, and A Distant Trumpet 1964. Those were all much later than when he directed this. Here, the story, though complicated, flows well. You never really feel bogged down. But again, the ending I thought was kind of weird because they didn't set it up right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could give them a pass on that, and we'll talk about that. Now, let's talk about the music. We always talked about the music. Friedrich Hollander is responsible for the music here, and we won't spend a lot of time on this because I really didn't notice it all that much, which I think is a good thing. It melds well with the scenes so that it does not stand out. I like when that happens in a movie. I mean, the music doesn't overpower a scene. It's part of the scene. So I thought that was well done.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, to me, the best part of the score were the scenes where I think it was Roshinko, I think was the guy's name, who was the sinister guy.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
Right, and he's the guy I talked about earlier. But I thought the marrying of the way they shot those scenes of him and the music was very, very well done.
Yeah. You got other movies where music does stand out in some of our favorites, like the James Bond movies, but that is more of an emphasis standout to get the audience pumped up on purpose. So I like that too. But here, it really does blend well. So great job.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, so Dan, let's talk about some of the fun facts, if you will, about either the actors, some behind the scenes stuff about a movie. So I know you've got one on one of the characters, and who's also in another movie that you love. So why don't you tell me about him?
Yeah, William Edmonds was in this movie. He's got a small part in this movie. He was Mr. Martini in It's a Wonderful Life. And again, he got a small role here in Background to Danger. He's a waiter with some information. And but I think he's fantastic. And It's a Wonderful Life. He's just awesome. Mr. Martini, how about some wine? All right. I love It's a Wonderful Life. Anyway, this guy, William Edmonds, he was born in Italy. And he's had roles in movies from 1934 to 1952, really, including the 1946 Nobody Lives Forever, which W.R. Burnett also wrote, and was in many TV series as well. But it was nice to see him here in a small role. I was very happy to see that. And Sydney Greenstreet did a special trailer for this movie where he talks directly to the audience, which was a little unusual, and he mentions the Maltese Falcon and Across the Pacific. I mean, that was pretty cool. You can find that one on YouTube if you want. We'll have a link in our on our website.
All right, so Dan, here's another great one. I know how you love Casablanca.
Yeah, I do.
And there's a scene at the end of Background to Danger where certain characters are going to leave by plane to fly to Cairo. And this scene kind of looked familiar to me, Dan.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, because the last scene of the plane taking off here in Background to Danger is very similar to what we see in Casablanca in 1942, when Rick and Captain Renault are standing at the airport in the fog discussing women and friendship. Both are Warner Brothers movies, so the similarities are tremendous.
Yeah.
And they're similar, but there definitely are differences. For instance, there's no beautiful friendship.
There's not the emotion in this one as there was in Casablanca.
Yeah. And the scene is shot a little bit differently in Background to Danger. The plane takes off, it's dark, foggy, and the plane kind of just goes right overhead almost. Where in Casablanca, it's more of a side shot of the plane, and you see it for much longer. But they both end pretty much with the plane taking off. Life is going on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Background to Danger is not Casablanca or the Maltese Falcon, but it is a very watchable and enjoyable movie for spy movie fans and for fans of the 1940s and World War II era as well. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
Like I said earlier, this one surprised me. I enjoyed it very much. And I was surprised I was going to, so I liked it.
We recommend you take a look.
Absolutely.
All right, we've decoded Background to Danger, so that's a wrap. This has been Dan.
And Tom.
From SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Help us out so that we can do more by clicking subscribe to our show. Thanks for spending time with us. We appreciate it. Thanks.